Well, welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave, and it is I, Krown, ready once again with bearing some good news for the Bitcoin Bulas out there. Actually, we're going to be talking a lot about the higher term time frame today as we just got the new monthly close. By the way, happy August, all jokes aside, and in a little bit more of a serious tone. We made it all the way here, still in 2020, which, for better or worse, who knows what the fuck that means. TikTok being banned today apparently as well, which I don't know about that. But more importantly, let's talk about some actual technical analysis over here. So with that said, we do see a couple of interesting things right here on the main dashboard for the Krown trading application, which can be found at app.krowntrade.net. It's 100% free, so take advantage of it. Anyways, open interest showing another increase of about 150 million in contract position as Bitcoin continues the uptrend, getting a massive monthly closure above very important levels, and that is going to essentially tie into the greater long-term time frame analysis, which essentially suggests that this move is legitimate, so to speak. It is backed, and we'll be looking at other metrics as well to further verify that. But for right now, let's go take a look at the Bitcoin dominance, which is actually down about 0.25% as pretty much the whole market does rally. So very interesting here as we do see some altcoins really outpacing Bitcoin versus US dollar, which obviously is going to benefit their Satoshi pairing as well. And what else do we see? We do see that fear and greed index actually pretty much the same as yesterday, which is rather interesting as, well, fair enough. All right. So with all of that said, let's actually look at the data tab really quickly as well. I do want to check on what the funding rate is, and it's actually coming down more recently. So still, I really don't even get concerned about something like this until it gets like well above 0.1%, and we are quite literally at 0.2.5, it looks like, and that's a global funding rate. So it's kind of an average of all the major exchanges, all the major derivative exchanges, that is, which suggests that really not paying even all that much money to hold long-term contracts here. If you're holding to put this in perspective, if you're holding $1 million in contract position, you're paying at this rate is like, I mean, maybe you're paying like $1,000 a day. That's it. It's rather low, so it's not even a consideration for the long-term hodlers right there who are putting positions on derivatives contracts. Other than that, I don't really have too much to add on to any of the other metrics that we see here. We just don't have enough history with them yet in order to give like a good efficacious read. But fear and greed index, we can see that we are at highs that we haven't seen since well, realistically, we haven't seen these since pre-February of this year, so about half a year ago. And everything else is more or less interesting to look at right now, but still, we need probably like another 2 years of data before we can make much out of this. Looking at the indicators tab, we should see all momentum turning up and still gaining momentum to the upside, which is what we see right here. So let's take a second now to go into the actual price action analysis, which I want to start off with the most important thing that was confirmed last night. And Bitcoin has done something that it has not done in, well, it's only done once in the history of its lifetime, and that is have a closing high above about $11,000. And of course, the only other time that Bitcoin's ever had a closing monthly high above that area was in December 2017 at a closing price of 13,800-ish region. So this is all very long-term type stuff. And I want to begin this whole talk by saying this is not to say that I'm not looking for pullbacks on Bitcoin. This is not to say that Bitcoin isn't going to come back down or do anything like that. In fact, I actually do think that Bitcoin will come back down and test $1,000 lower and maybe even lower than that over time. But overall, this has really set the tone for the more long term, as Bitcoin has done something that again, it has not done in a very long time, and more importantly, it is continuing and confirming an uptrend right here now with this new higher high printed above our last closing high in June 2019, quite literally a little bit more than 1 year ago. Makes this confirmed as quite literally an uptrend on the monthly, getting continuation as of this month being August 2020. So just kind of like ride this one out, which is I mean, this is very rudimentary and simple stuff right here, but it is quite literally it is very powerful as well. Do not mistake simplicity for silliness, as sometimes I can kind of let myself get carried away. But my point is that here's your low, here's your last high, here's your next low, and then this is your continuation point. So we quite literally have an uptrend that is getting and confirming continuation as of yesterday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. This is also verified and further enhanced by all momentum oscillators following through. We do see monthly Stokes rejecting the bearish control zone and up and getting very erect at that as well. We do see monthly Joule giving confirm, or not confirming. I mean, it confirmed this, a couple months ago, actually in May, but getting the holiday long signal as of April confirmed in May, or double confirmed, I guess you could say, and getting more and more divergence away from each other right here, which would suggest that this strengthening to the upside alongside monthly RSI also getting another uptick, and more importantly, living above the exponential here, which really makes this looks like an accumulation zone going on for the last almost a year now, going back to October 2019. This is all, to be considered little pieces of the pie, but they're all getting put together, and this really does help out the long-term case for Bitcoin as far as I'm concerned. And yes, I do think that Bitcoin very likely does come back down and test around, this last closing high that we saw in July of 2019, somewhere in the mid to upper 10,000s. But I do think that ends up being an opportunity. I mean, shit, things could still come back down to low $10,000 area as well. But my point is that the buys for the long term is now really starting to get solidified here as Bitcoin continues on a very strong uptrend. Now, here's also another thing that I want to focus on as well. Let me find my chart. There it is. Okay, so this is CME chart, and it did close for the weekly and obviously monthly yesterday as well. But the focus here is that we've actually closed the weekly. So this is confirmed as of right now. And from a Trollinger Band perspective, we actually got our first weekly closure above the top Trollinger Band for the first time since the actual the last major melt up that we saw in April 2019 on this move, going all the way from like 4,000 to 14,000, a 200% increase to the upside, which as of right now, getting and confirming our first closure above on a weekly girthy green dildo right here, supported by volume, and we'll look at a little bit later volatility as well. And as we looked at the beginning of this video, open interest all coming into collusion with each other. Very, 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 very good. What's the word that I'm looking for? Not confirmation, but that word, fucking goddamn it, the one that suggests that things are working with each other. Well, it'll come to me later if I just talk in circles, I suppose. But looking at this right here, looking at Bitcoin closing this weekly dildo above the top Trollinger Band on the weekly, that is when Bitcoin does actually emerge on its long-term trends. And I'd very likely look for spot price action to confirm the same thing, which will be confirmed on Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern time if Bitcoin can close above 11,431. And that would essentially suggest that we are going to see another drive to the upside on this current run right here, which I do think is rather likely. Again, looking at even the lower term time frame. So we're kind of flip-flopping around right now because Bitcoin, Bitcoin on a monthly, Bitcoin on a weekly, and Bitcoin on a daily is like massive time differentials. So naturally, speaking on a monthly schedule is going to have a lot different implications than perhaps a daily, because, well, you get around 30 days typically, if I'm counting them right, in a month. But looking at the daily right here, it is continuation as well. We did hit our short-term target at 11,500 yesterday, and brushing up against it again today in the early morning hours. I would say that this is, very, 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 very likely to break again to the upside. My only major concern here is that it being the weekend, I am always a little bit more skeptical of price action over the weekend. But the big thing with the weekend price action that I always like to harp in, and I need to be very, very clear in how I state this because this can be very easily misheard, and it definitely has been in the past, and I want to do the best job that I can to relate these sorts of concepts. But ever since CMEs debuted in December 2017, we have never seen a reversal that happened on the weekend that was contrary to the prior week's direction on a daily or higher term time frame that was sustained in the following week. So that is to say that any sort of reversals that happened on the weekend when CMEs were not trading did not have any follow through on the prior week if the reversal happened on the weekend while CMEs were not trading. That's essentially what I'm saying. And so if we did get continuation of the upside here, obviously that's not a reversal, that's continuation, and we have seen that in the past, actually several times in 2019. So we can get big moves, or Bitcoin can get big moves. I don't want to take on the identity of an inanimate orange fucking coin, but at the end of the day, the point that I'm trying to make here, the point that I'm trying to paint is essentially this: that if Bitcoin does move to the upside, that's great. I still would go essentially level by level here on the shorter term timeframes because I would be a little bit skeptical. Usually is kind of like a liquidity grab on the weekends. But looking at this right here, I mean, if everything else being equal, disregarding time, this obviously looks like continuation. I mean, I think that's rather clear, and we have hit our critical areas both from the last few days on the short-term timeframes and the long-term timeframes. And I suppose now is the time to start to plot out the areas of continuation to the upside, which realistically are not all that far away. If we look at this, let's go back to our GDAX chart right here. We do have a measure move pointed up a little bit over 11,500, and that would essentially be akin to the last closing high, and also one of the present gaps on CMEs coming in from August 2019. Looking at this area right here, or sorry, no, it would be August 2019. And by the way, on CMEs, that is one of the present gaps coming in right around here. You could argue that we've already filled it. I would actually agree that we've already filled it. And reapproaching it would very unlikely result in another sell-off. Maybe for short-term action, yes, but overall, the point again that I'm trying to make right now is that as long as Bitcoin's especially above 11,000, I don't really see, even 11,200, I don't really see any real reason to be looking at this as some sort of a fake out or some sort of a of a liquidity grab. I look at it as continuation essentially, and just going level by level on the shorter term timeframes is more or less the play for myself right now. Now, of course, that's not to say that that's the right thing for everyone to do, and this is never financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, and this is the furthest thing from financial advice, and the FCC is listening to this right now. Go fuck yourself. But just kidding, don't actually go fuck yourself, or at least don't go fuck myself. So they need to be very, very careful. But overall, what does this look like? It looks like continuation. And if Bitcoin does get a 4-hour dollar closure, or I'd really prefer to use a higher term time frame or a medium term time frame, I suppose, like a 12-hour on the weekend, especially above 11,000. What is this, like 550? I would look for extension to the next major level to the upside, which is actually 11,800 to 12,000, which likely probably gets a wick up to right into the $12,000 region. At which point I would be looking for a greater retracement, probably on the short, very, very likely on the short-term timeframes, but very likely, but even just as likely on the medium-term timeframes as well. So, this run has been pretty damn impressive thus far. It's not to say that I'm not looking for it to end long-term, but I do think that to kind of wrap up my thoughts there, I do think that Bitcoin has another leg here, very likely over these next weeks or two, and then I'd be looking for a pullback from this region at the $12,000 marker, we'll call it, and consolidation sideways for a little bit of time, setting up for perhaps another leg of continuation, after we've come back and kind of viewed that one. But for right now, things look more or less fine, and I do think that Bitcoin is more or less bullish here on the whole. It's more or less the shorter term timeframes that are going to govern these pullbacks that we see within this region. And this run, to be fair, is getting a little bit frothy. But to put things in perspective, we actually don't even have bearish divergence present on a daily just yet, and I would not judge the next medium-term time frame pullback and consolidation very likely emerging from that pullback until Bitcoin at the very least gets bearish divergence on, at the very least a fucking 12-hour, but preferably a daily. I'd like to see it on a daily, and then yes, I'd be looking for a greater pullback, at which point we'll go back into a nice little consolidation range, and then we can judge if it's more likely to break the upside or the downside from there. But for right now, Bitcoin does not even have bearish divergence present on a daily, because we're quite literally making higher highs on the daily RSI. So kind of hard to make it like that. It's essentially saying that we're still in the process of trending. And if we go to even a 12-hour, do we have any bearish divergence present here? It will be very likely building some, but it would still imply that we will get some closing higher highs alongside that. And then if we do see a lower high on RSI, anywhere below the 90 marker is where our last high is, then yes, we will have that present there as well. And I imagine that the 12-hour and daily essentially play with each other as they typically do. A 12-hour obviously being a little bit faster of a signal there, so it'll be the first warning signal. The daily should be the confirmation for a greater pullback. But for right now, as you can see, this is continuation as far as I'm concerned, and we see that momentum oscillators, even like 12-hour Stokes here, are still pointed northwards, and they will remain to the upside as long as Bitcoin maintains 12-hour delta closures above 11,150, which is a very interesting level, because 11,150 is even below below our short-term time frame break range that we were looking at yesterday of 11,200. So all these things are rather generous right now for Bitcoin. And kind of, again, to wrap up my thoughts there, I'm short-term, medium-term, and long-term, and I guess even macro-term bullish now, as long as Bitcoin is above 11,200 on a 2-hour and 4-hour closing basis. If it does lose that level, I would look for a return back down to the 10,800-ish level, retest the monthly area that we spoke about at the beginning of this video. But for right now, it does not look like that to me. It looks like continuation, and we'll look at the world markets soon enough, and a little bit more of the crypto market, and it's everything's rallying. Everything's going up, man. Everything's going up. As it stands right now, I do want to check out where we are in historical volatility percentile on the daily right here as well. You can see that we've entered into this expansion phase, and I've been harping on this a lot for like a year now, but I really want to extra harp on it right now because we saw a very aggressive contraction phase for about 3 months going back to March and being resolved more recently, obviously, in late July. So that's April, May, June, July, actually 4 months. So, kind of something that we haven't really seen as aggressive like that before. And in Bitcoin, obviously going sideways within this range between about, mid 8,000s and 10,000 during that time frame as well, and putting in an ascending triangle right here, as you can see, at the same time. Now, this is very much par for the course on Bitcoin, both for reversals to the upside and the downside, or continuation in this case as well. We have another one right here. I'll actually do a completely fresh chart. In fact, just delete everything. There you go. All right, so here's just a throwaway chart that I can use for this little demonstration. But we had the same thing right on over here on the major reversal from 2019 when Bitcoin went from 14,000 down to ultimately 4,000, and putting an ascending triangle on the highs, which we see volume signature confirming this. If we were looking at what's it called, open interest would have confirmed this as well. It was rising on the break to the downside, and then also historical volatility percentile was contracting during the whole triangular consolidation phase right here, and then being resolved in September right here, at which point massive moves to the downside, to the tune of, from the breakout point, if we were measuring it from there to the next low, like almost 50% down on closing bases. And of course, the other reversal that we see that was of more proximal times was in beginning of 2019 on an ascending triangle, reversing this baby from 3,100 ultimately to 14,000. But same sort of thing here, 3-month consolidation from November to late March. And during that time, we see a very aggressive contraction phase here once again on daily historical volatility percentile. Not as aggressive as what we see right now, by the way. And that being resolved on this major burst up right here, we do see continuation basically for, as we kind of denoted before, about 200% on a closing basis. So Bitcoin, when it does have these major consolidations for 3 months, around 3 months, as verified by historical volatility percentile, and if we looked at, or if we had data for the open interest, which, I can't really trust anything that we didn't generate ourselves, which is just going to take time, really. But we were looking at the same time there as well, and, essentially the same thing. All of these factors come together for good. I'm still looking for that fucking C word, and it's not the one that gets you banned from YouTube, but I'm talking about the one confluence. That's fucking it, man. Jesus Christ. Sorry for my very foul language today. And Bitcoin has a great history of doing that. You see another descending triangle right here on this continuation drive from 6,000 to 3,000. Same thing on historical volatility percentile, contract, boom, massive move up. And that's producing 50% moves essentially. So my point is that when Bitcoin puts in a base like this right here, making an ascending triangle over the course of about 3-4 months, while volume and volatility contract at the same time, and open interest was doing the same thing as well, and then gets that first major break. This is why the last few days we were saying this is unlikely to be a reversal right here. A lot of people are giving me a lot of shit in the comments saying, Krown, you're way too bullish, and Bitcoin hasn't had a retracement yet, and Bitcoin is going to be going down, and Bitcoin's got a gap to fill at 9,700. Go fuck yourself. Just kidding. It is a little bit vindicating, but at the same time, it's stupid shit. But over so fucking obnoxious. I'm so sorry. That's so fucking obnoxious. All of the comments. Krown, your horns are way too loud. Okay, so yeah, another leg is certainly not out of the question. I do think that Bitcoin is another leg, probably up to like 12,000 or 12,100 ish region, and then we'll play out like a short term and medium term pullback. That's essentially what I'm looking at right here. But this is going to be mediated by the short term timeframes, kind of judging the levels essentially, looking at 11,500, 11,550 on a 4-hour total closure. Above there, I'd look for extension up here. At which point I'll be looking for more of like a macro area to be tested once again. If we go over here to the weekly, we can see that that's where a lot of these wicks are coming in from the last major rally in what was it, July of last year. But more importantly here, while we are, let's go to, I think I have it on stamp chart. While we are here, what's also very interesting about that level at 12,000 is that would, if Bitcoin actually could close tomorrow's weekly above or around 11,800 to 12,000-ish region, it will again do something that has actually not done for the last 3 years. It will have gotten back above this blue box territory, this liquid zone that we see that Bitcoin's been selling off of ever since January 2018. I almost said 80. But the reason why that is relevant is not just because there's a major fib here and not just because it's a major a major breakdown zone, but this is essentially indicative of institutional order flow dynamics at play. Whenever you see price action like this, whenever you see price action that spikes into areas like this, once, twice, 3, 4 times and moves away from it very, 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 very quickly and aggressively, and I would imagine that 50% down and resulting ultimately in 70% down, and then this one over here, very similar as well, going 61% down. That is indicative that big players getting their short fills in there. It would also follow that if Bitcoin can actually close above that level and do something that it has not done and been rejected from doing for the last 3 years, we have a massive, again, macro change of behavior, and it would essentially play into the in line with the monthly, which overall I'd be talking about targets to or almost 14,000, then 16,000 and 20,000. I really dislike using this sort of terminology right now, and this is again a higher term time frame. This is not to say that it's happening today or tomorrow, probably not even this month, maybe maybe not even this year, don't know, but and of course things can always fail, but the failure points are very obvious here. If Bitcoin were to come back down below that level and close below 11.5 after closing above it perhaps this week, as it will have a chance, then I think that would be rather obvious that this is going to be a massive fake out. But I don't think that that's what's happening here. This looks more or less healthy, looks more or less fine. And if we look at the whole, actually, funnily enough, speaking of triangles, we actually kind of do see that this is, forming one massive triangle itself, with a resolution point at the 0.5 fib here. And in rising bottoms coming in at 3,100, 50, 400, and depending upon where you actually get the next test, if there is going to be a next test, would be probably somewhere in the upper 7,000s, low 8,000s. So it's still a possibility, and it would be relevant to think that could indeed happen if Bitcoin puts in a top here. We could very easily come back down. I wouldn't say very easily, but we could come back down into that territory, as this apex would suggest that we could still spend some more time within this region, and that would be very, very standard, I suppose. But overall, the long-term health of this asset is really starting to prove itself, which I think is rather exciting. And this is coming from someone who I do believe in Bitcoin long-term, but I really want to take a step back and hopefully separate myself from like the moon boy sort of bullshit talk, because I just don't think that that's real, and I don't want to be a part of that, and I don't like that, and it's just not who I am. So I really want to make a concerted effort to not identify with that sort of thought process. But at the end of the day, if Bitcoin does exceed these levels, that's essentially what I'm learning, that's essentially what I'm leaning towards, alongside what we saw in the Trollender bands, which has already been confirmed on CMEs. And by the way, Bitcoin's back above 11,005 on Mexico already, and with the monthly close yesterday as well. I mean, it's looking rather likely, I'll put it that way. But of course, would like to see confirmations. And while we are here on the weekly, let's go take a look at weekly momentum oscillators, which, by the way, having a fresh cross the upside on weekly Stokes, and will naturally remain to the upside as long as we are closing the weekly above about 11,000. So it's looking, again, rather likely. Of course, a lot of things can happen between now and tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, but things are setting up, well. Looking at weekly RSI, we are back into the bullish control zone for the first time since when? Since April 2019. That was during this breakout right here, coming in from the 5,100 base. And I and I remember pretty much the same dynamics in the market during that time. I was bullish as soon as Bitcoin broke the 200 exponential moving average to the upside in March 2019, after being bearish in this region right here, because I'm always going to be bearish, when looking at continuation. But the thing is that a lot of people at that same time were saying Bitcoin is just putting in another one of those suckers rally, and it's going to be going back down right now. Well, at some point, yeah, but after a 3-month-long consolidation in a region like this, it's very unlikely to do that. It's very likely to get continuation. As we've seen in the past. I mean, this is historically relevant and very much relevant to what we're seeing right here. This is the first move to the upside. This was the first move to the upside. A little bit of sideways. And I imagine that we'll probably get a little bit of sideways, maybe at like the $11,500 or $12,000 region. And then, assuming that it actually exceeds the next relevant levels, then I'd be looking for another major markup, really. And we don't just see this the same reads on patterns like we saw for all those triangular formations. We don't see the same read on historical volatility percentile, which is also very powerful as well. But we also see it on weekly RSI, which you can see right here. Once it broke into this region, that was the breakout of essentially the 55 exponential moving average. And what do you know? We are getting our first sort of foray into this region once again for the first time since that time. And that is, typically when Bitcoin is actually in a macro bullish trend. If we go back to the switch up from 2014, 2015 bear market, it's by no mistake that we actually do see that first major move into the bullish control zone when Bitcoin actually confirms a weekly reversal right here, right fucking here. It's at this exact point. At $315, where Bitcoin then for the next 3-4 years went straight to the fucking moon at 20,000 at a closing price. So, at an ultimate price. So, again, it's not to say that we're going to have a move like that. Obviously, this move over here was not as aggressive, but I do think that, it would be very likely that Bitcoin does get another overall leg here at the very least, and that can set it up for, more long-term good things, I suppose. Looking at weekly Joule, we see yet again another bounce, another holder long signal alongside a fib, alongside just a traditional area as well, and overall, I guess it's just good. Saying trend likely to continue. So the next things that I really be looking for is tomorrow's closure, or maybe a 4 hour above 11,550. I do think that things are getting a little bit aggressive now, but hard to argue with a closure like that, at least for a short-term trade. But realistically, it's the weekly that I keep an eye on, because the weekly does have a chance, as we've already seen confirmed on CMEs, to close above that top weekly Bollinger Band. And guess what? That's also another great indication for Bitcoin on the macro that it is actually entering into a more macro trend. And this is literally just the first time that we're actually going to confirm it right here, potentially, of course. On CMEs, it already is confirmed, and I imagine very likely comes on into spot price action as well. And I'm sure that all the fucking cryptocurrency anarchists fucking hate that fact, that or they're probably feeling cognitive dissonance now. It's like, wait, CMEs is bullish, but I hate CMEs because those are the people who bullied me in high school. It's like, that makes no sense, but fuck them, and I hate them, so I hate CME, but I like Bitcoin. Fuck, but that's bullish, but that's not what do I do? And I'm having a fucking mental breakdown right now because I'm crazy. But yeah, looking at spot price action, that same level would be 11,450 essentially. So if Bitcoin does close above there tomorrow, is it likely that we see this get another leg up and also continue above critical areas? Yes. And where was the start of your last major trend? On that first weekly closure above the top Bollinger Band right here in April 2019. When was the one before that? Well, that was going all the way back to 2014, 2015 right here, beginning that overall uptrend, and then just using the 20 simple to kind of ride it the whole way. And guess what? Both those things kind of in conjunction with each other, and then adding on the slope of the 20 simple moving average on the Bollinger Bands, all these things have been the confirmation of long-term major moves to the upside. So I do like those reads, and things are, I guess, looking more or less fine here. I'd like to talk a little bit more maybe on the reserved side, because I feel like I'm just sounding like a massive fucking boolah, and realistically at the end of the day, I'm a trader. So there is going to be short-term and medium-term downside. There's going to be volatile dump offs, and there's going to be very, very brutal and violent moves along the way, absolutely. But for right now, as long as Bitcoin's above this, we can actually do just a new chart on Mexico here. Why not? I haven't really been using it recently, but you know, as long as it's above this area right here on a 2 hour and 4 hour total closing basis, I don't even look for like a medium term pullback, or you know, short term is I suppose more your general disposition from where we are right now at 11,500 to 11.2. That's a $300 move, so you know that's very tradable short term. Absolutely, I suppose for the more aggressive people, they might be using this as a management point at 11.3. Fair enough, to govern the short term moves, but overall, I don't even look for, you know, a legitimate pullback until Bitcoin closes of 2 hour or 4 hour delta below 11.2. If that were to happen, then yes, I'd look for a move back down to 10.8 and retest the monthly area that we spoke about at the beginning of this video. There's also another thing that I want to check out as well, and that is something that I really only check out a few times per month, although I do have a new tool for this. Credit to Bali for that one, but I don't have it on hand right now. Or at least I don't think that I have access right now. But looking at the monthly accumulation distribution indicator right here, again, has called all the major reversals, both the upside and the downside, perfectly in Bitcoin land since the inception, going all the way back to going all the way back to the genesis on Stamp. And what do we see? Anytime that we see a shift in the slope, or the slope change, which in this case changed in May 2020. By the way, that was coming out of this base right here. After the March-April dump, and before that we saw it at 3,100 right here, just matching up right there. Yep. in January, February of 2019, and then before that, obviously in July 2015, right here on this major low, those were marking all major reversals. And of course, it works to the downside as well. And I only care about slope on this. I don't care about the color. The color means nothing. We ain't fucking racist. It's Christmas anyways, so who cares? But my point is that looking at this right here, it's maintaining the positive slope as we just get a new tick as of today. I guess this is the first day of August. So again, all these things, coming into fruition with each other, I do rather like, and call me crazy, but I do think that Bitcoin gets continuation over the next couple months to 14,000 and probably beyond. Just looking at the monthly right now, we can also look at obviously the entropy chart, which I really like here, and here's what I want to show as well. So getting a little bit more into the weeds right now. We haven't even spoken about traditional markets. Jesus Christ, man! 30 minutes into this bitch. But you can see these dotted lines on the entropy chart, and man, do I need to explain this whole fucking thing? This is. Should I even bother explaining this thing? Like, do people even listen to this? Entropy is popping up right now during this consolidation phase, which essentially suggests that we're going to consolidate there. But usually we do see a turning point around that dotted line that I have my cursor on right now, where you can see it marks off either support or resistance for reversal in the slope of that. And the case that I'm trying to make right now is that if we see a downtick from this, if this turns down tomorrow, meaning that entropy is now falling once again while price action is moving up, and historic volatility percentile is on the move to the upside as well. It's in an expansion phase right here on the all-time HVP as well. Then that's going to very very likely suggest that this continuation again comes to the upside. So putting all the tools together, whether you're like a quantum physicist or just a general TA nerd like myself, or just a trend person, everything kind of lining up with each other right now, which is typically where the magic does happen. We can also look at we need to go look at traditional markets for a second here. Okay, let's go look at first things first. Tesla. Okay, Tesla. While everything else is rallying in the fucking world, Tesla. How many fucking times have I gotten a message like, bro, you're going to be so fucking wrong about Tesla. Tesla's going to be making new all-time fucking highs today. Well, probably not. I mean, everything else in the fucking market is moving up right now. And guess what? If Tesla was strong like the other techs, it would be moving like a Microsoft or an Apple. And guess what? Guess what Apple's doing? Apple's got new all-time highs yesterday. It just fucking green dilded itself to the fucking moon in one move. Microsoft, same thing, regaining the 21 exponential moving average at the same time. And if Tesla had a chance, and it still does have a chance to be fair, and the general strength in the market right now is like, if it can rally, it will. But it's very concerning when something is not rallying that can rally in an overall strong market. So this one right here, if we do see even a daily closure below where we are right now, like 1400, I'd be looking for this one to return back down to low 1200s and probably beyond over time. this one is a stark difference, obviously, from Apple and in Microsoft. Microsoft, I would be looking for an up open coming into Monday, probably popping back up to 209 region. Apple, obviously, in price discovery again. We can also go look at just the general market, looking at NASDAQ futures, popped back up to the prior highs we spoke about was likely. And I would be hard pressed to not think that this does not get another chance to the upside. I think that we're going to see another overall move to the upside in the greater market. Very good weekly closure, new all-time highs on weekly closings. I'd be looking for maybe a quick retest of like 10,850-ish region, but continuation overall to new all-time highs coming into, August and maybe even September. Things look more or less good. So let me make sure that I cancel that. Some weird shit going on my other screen. Hopefully that doesn't fuck everything up. Did everything just mess up? Hopefully not. Okay, looks like my interwebs just froze up. Yeah, not responding. Let's see if I can just cancel it out right there. I might have to cancel everything and then bring it back up. This is going to be really fucking annoying. Okay, Google Chrome. Yeah, just died on me. So 1 second. Oh, I guess I can pull it up from right here. Hold on. Whoops. All right, let's see what embarrassing things pop up when I press this button. Restore. Hey, it worked. All right, that's pretty cool. Okay, that technology shit. You know what, Microsoft? I'm very cool with you continuing the rally to the moon. You got a great product, and Google, you too. Anyways, oops, let me get rid of all this. All right, good. There's no sound coming in through there. Okay. All right, cool. Okay, so yeah, we just looked at NASDAQ futures. I'd be looking for new all-time highs coming into August and probably September. Monthly close here is going to be more or less continuation. Yeah, looks good. And by the way, this is also going to continue the momentum to the upside as it did close above 10,771, obviously. So we're going to see once again the monthly Stokes cross back up and looking good there. Looking at E-mini futures for SPY, I imagine we're probably going to see more or less the same thing. We do have a new closing all-time high for the monthly chart. And I'd be looking for a retest of the prior all-time high on a wick basis, and probably new all-time highs to come after that. And guess what? This is a almost 10-year-long trend line that has been tested here on monthly momentum oscillators. As you do see that we've been bouncing off this area ever since fucking December 2011, which that was essentially the coming out of the last 08-09 crash, going all the way back on over here, getting this major low, getting this major low, getting this major low, getting this major low, and then more recently hitting this area right here that we just bounced off of, and once again crossing back up to the upside, or looking like it's going to cross back to the upside, or actually it will not cross back to the upside from here, but it's hard not to be bullish on something that's still in the fucking uptrend. I mean, even when coronavirus came, didn't even close on a new closing low on the monthly. Again, these higher term timeframes do help with overall perspective. While everyone was fucking bearish, talking about the world markets being in a Great Depression right around here, I think that this was rather obvious that this was a major runaway low, and we were gonna run back up to the top. And for Nasdaq, that just means make new all-time highs upon new all-time highs and continue to the fucking moon, I suppose. But what does this say? It says that we probably have another run up. I'd be looking for a weekly RSI to get back to the bullish control zone and test around 330, what is this, 336, 338, whatever the fuck it is, that gap right there. I'd be looking for a test there coming into the next month. So overall, the long term remains bullish is the picture that I'm trying to paint. Short term, is there, would I be looking for pullbacks? Maybe. Not really, actually. I think that this one probably opens up next week, and unless we have something crazy happen this weekend, maybe Trump and the China guy get into a nuclear war. Who knows? That could put a damper on things. But for right now, just looking at straight up charting action, looks like continuation to me. Gold's continuation as well. I would be looking for new all-time highs, massively closing above the last monthly closing high at 1830-ish region. I do think that it can very easily come back down and test around there, but I think that would also be a major opportunity. So, could there be a pullback coming into August? Yeah, could be very easily, but again, I'd be looking for at the very least bearish divergence on a daily, which we don't even have yet. It's building it, yes, but probably another drive to the the upside, make a few more highs, and then play out a nice pullback somewhere in the mid 1800s, and then I'd be looking at that as likely an opportunity on the first pass at the very least. Let's go look at Mr. Buterin as well. He's actually leading this rally to the upside, so it's actually very, very interesting here. Making new highs on this run, looking very good. Closing a monthly above the last major pivot point that we saw in June 2019 as well. I do think that this one heads up to 420, 430-ish region before playing out the next major pullback on the higher term timeframes. Again, that's not to say that we won't see short-term pullbacks on the lower term timeframes, but going level by level here, the last like 4-hour level that I'd even be looking at is all the way here at like 345. So can I have another test back down around there? Yep. But as long as it's above, I look for short, medium, and long-term momentum to carry it up, to the upper 300s, low 400s regions. Let's plot out some more areas, because I imagine like going from here to 400 is kind of unlikely. 375 would be the next area that I have an eye on. 375, probably a nice short-term pullback or medium-term pullback within that region. Probably does build up some bearish divergence on the daily by that time as well. But as you can see right here, technically not even present as of right now. So there you go. If it did lose 350 on a 4-hour closure, I would look for a move back down to 325, maybe even as low as 310. But I'd want to see that one in real time. To me, again, it looks like continuation of the upside. Really don't want to spend a shit ton of time looking at shitcoins. We can go look at Link. I'm curious what Link's doing. Link is putting in Link. Did we hit up to the 75,000 Satoshi target? No, 71,000 Satoshis. I'd be very much split on this one. Short term, it does look like it's going to come back down to these 63,000 Satoshi lows, but I would be hesitant to look for an actual breakdown below there. I do happen to think that it probably does bounce from there, and then we do see it play at a range basically like this. Let me get this into a nice blue box, and this would be more so an order block than a liquid zone, and I'll take this off right now so it's just easier to see, but we can actually tighten it up a little bit. But as long as it's within this region right here, I would actually err a little bit more on the side of looking at this as like a reaccumulation zone. Now, that also does imply that if we do close a daily below 63,500 Satoshis, I would look for a major collapse all the way down to 51,700-ish region. But for now, a little bit of sideways here would actually favor the boo laws and allow momentum oscillators, which have pretty much already fully reset as well, looking at the daily Stokes. A chance to flip back around, and I'd actually still look for that 75, maybe even 80,000 Satoshi tick. But we'll see. Maybe it is contra to the to the general market direction. It kind of has been in the past. I mean, it kind of just generally goes up. So fair enough. Looking at the daily, we do see a little bit of hidden bullish divergence as well, but getting a little bit nasty there. I'd want to see the weekly closure. I do think that's going to play out a range here, regardless of whether you're bullish or bearish. Bitcoin into the 11,550-ish marker. Nicely done, my boulash friend, as it continues onwards and upwards. And 11,800 to 12,000 is probably where I'd be looking for. It's going to have a chance to close above that next level that we just spoke about, which I think I have on this chart right here. Yes, indeed, I do. And so the next driven target would be like 800 to 12,000-ish region. And at that point, I do think that it probably finds at least a short-term top, probably a medium-term top. But looking at the 4-hour right here, is it going to be building bearish divergence? Yes. Does it also imply that we probably see a few more drives up here before it gets confirmed? Well, yes, it does. Looking at 4-hour Stokes, we do see that it's still nice and erect, and it will remain erect as long as we are above 11,250. So that's like right around the last breakout point. Even below the last little consolidation. I mean, this looks like it wants to continue right here, right now. And looking at 12-hour, we see the same thing, 11,250, same price point, and daily shows exactly the same price point as well. So 11,250 is going to be a very good pivot for these timeframes to the downside by the same token. But for now, still maintaining it to the upside. Yes, daily Stokes are getting a little bit aggressive there, but again, I'm looking for divergence on the RSI, not on Stokes during these strong trending moves. I do not really care that much about Stokes. They're still useful, yes, but they take on a different interpretation, and I think it's just easier to watch RSI, at least for myself. So fair enough. Let's go look at probabilities. So this video is probably already way too long, and yes, it is. So let's go right on over here. And let's see, what do we got? So the probability of closing today's daily doodle above 11,500 is almost 38%. Not bad. To get this right, we'll have to use the lower term timeframes. I'm going to use 11,250 to the downside right here. Now, remember, if 11,250 does get broken to the downside, it would imply another maybe $400, $500 move somewhere into like the 10.8, 10.9 liquid zone, and also monthly area as well, but does not imply further breakdown than that. Below 10.8, I believe that there are problems, but we'll have to come back to that one and visit it in real time if it does happen. For the upside here, what do I want to use? I mean, obviously, if I use 11,550 and go off the 4-hour resistance, it's going to be astronomically high percentage. It's not really going to be fair. It's going to be 34.17%. Actually, this is rather interesting. 11,550, the probability of closing above that on today's daily dodo is 34.17%. The probability of closing below 11,250 is actually just below 42%, which you would not really guess because, I mean, we're literally at 11,550 like right now. So you'd think that it would naturally have a higher probability, but that's just not true. So interesting, very, very interesting. So could we see a reversal from this point? It actually does, it actually does say that, hold your horses for now, but then again, realistically, both of the probabilities for meeting the upside and the downside target are actually very high. It'd be very much relevant to think that, both can happen. I mean, 34% chance to happen means that 1 out of 3 times it's going to happen. 42% chance is like, 1 in 2.5 chance, 1 in 2.5 tries. It's going to do it, doing some bad mental math. Rings are still squeezing to the upside, it looks like, on both the 12-hour and the daily. Yes, indeed they are. A little bit more anemic there, but I should look at future bars as well. And it's the same. So my bias would still be to the upside here. The Bali and Pig's Mom's turning a little bit down, getting a little bit hot. But I'm still looking for new and unique ways to interpret that one, because I feel like there's something there, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure yet. I'm not exactly sure. But looking at 4-hour RSI, it does look like Bitcoin's going to get another try up here. Now, I want to talk about one last thing. This is specifically for the TA and crypto nerds right now, because you're the only fucking weirdos who are listening at this point. And hey, man, I'm the fucking king of the weirdos right now, because my freak flag is flying real fucking erect. But what I want to show is something that I showed in the program Discord the other day. Something that I think is very interesting that I don't really want to talk about with the general like just person who's kind of dabbling in shit like this. But it's this, I showed this about a week ago. As an inverted head and shoulders with a resolution point on a weekly closure above the February highs at 10,700, which it very likely it did confirm this week, and also confirming a closure above the top Bollinger Band here as well. This would actually have a measure move pointed towards the $15,000 marker, which I don't really have anything else coming in that region. So it is kind of out of, it's kind of out of the blue, which makes me a little bit skeptical about it. But overall, it would suggest that, Bitcoin probably does get a nice little continuation drive here. I mean, I don't think that 13,500 to 14,000 is out of the question. And we actually do have a nice little liquid zone there on a weekly closing basis. So I would like to mark this one out off. But technically speaking, it is pointed a little bit north of that. So I don't really know what to make of that. I think it's more experimental than anything, but I suppose, at this point in the video, it's probably the people who are like actually interested in this sort of information. And I think that really could help out the long-term bias as well. It's just multiple things aligning with each other. And yes, this is a double left shoulder. That's completely fine. Completely, completely, there's absolutely nothing wrong with having double left or right shoulders, or even double heads in that for that metric. The volume signature was proper as well. If I actually draw it right, but that's another whole task. And we do have a resolution on this spike up right here. It's acting as if you'd expect it to act if it is going to be a legitimate breakout. Call this formation whatever you want to call it. I'd say it's an inverted head and shoulders, but the implication is the same, a bullish reversal formation. anyways, I think this is probably a good time to start to level off on this video. I feel like I've missed a few things, even though this video is probably already like 50 minutes long, which is kind of crazy. But overall, for the short-term ranges, I'd be looking at 11,550 for the very short term, which is looking like Bitcoin's going to close above it. It's got 2 hours and 7 minutes to confirm. I mean, the 2 hours is going to confirm like in 7 minutes, and I imagine that the 2 hour probably does get this one right anyways, and drives up the next move to 11.8 to 12,000-ish bucks. By the same token, if Bitcoin does fail this area right here, it's not super problematic. It's really only problematic for like a short-term warning flag below, let's call it 11,300 to give it a little bit of breath here. I could just easily say 11,200, but I do think coming back down below 11,003, especially closing any sort of a hourly or 2 hour delta below there, would be indicative that we will see another wash back down to the upper 10,000s overall. But right now, that's just not what's happening here, man. It's looking good. It's looking like continuation. And I think with that said, I'd like to wish you the best of the best and the happiest of the happiest on this nice little Saturday morning. I'm gonna be signing off now. I'm going to I don't know what I'm gonna do today, man. I think today's gonna be a rest day. I've been recording a shit ton of videos for my other channels, which I'm really excited to release soon too as well. So I would like to wish you well. Take care, and until next time.